Photoshop exercise, crop, size, resolution, and color modes. So there's quite a bit of information here, but let's go through it step by step. The first thing that you're going to need to do to be able to complete this exercise is to download the file. This is an image. If you click on this link here, it will start to download it. It'll take a couple of minutes because it is kind of a large file. I've already got it downloaded and I have Photoshop open. So you'll want to open this document in Photoshop. You go to File, Open, and I'm going to find it. So the image is right here. I'm going to select it and hit Open. And the first thing that we're going to do to this image is we are going to crop this image. Right now I am on my Move tool, and the crop image is 5 tools down, so it's right here. So I'm going to select that, and if you notice, it automatically selects an area. And if you click on this upper left-hand corner, there's some options for some different ratios for which you can crop. So the original ratio is based on that image size. What I want you to do is choose 1 by 1, and what that does is it makes it a square ratio. And you're going to need to click to the side first, and then you can grab your image and you can drag that image in that crop area. If you find that you are trying to crop it and it seems like it's just drawing a new crop area, again, you need to remember that you need to click to the side first on the outside edge, and then you can grab the image and you can move it around. So grab it so it's moved to that far right hand side so you can see the 2 shakers and this lantern in here, and then hit enter on the keyboard and that will accept your crop. So now we've cropped our image into a square format. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to deal with the image size. The image size settings are available from this top drop-down menu. You go to Image and then Image Size. Now in this dialog box, it tells you what the file size is. It also tells you the dimensions in pixels, so we're 3,840 pixels by 3,840 pixels. It also tells you the actual width and height of the image and the resolution. Now, there's a couple of different things that we're going to do with this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to resample this image. And what resampling does is it allows Photoshop to either subtract or add pixels from the image. So what we're going to do is we want to make sure that resample is checked, and then we're going to change our image to 1500 pixels square. So right here, this width, I'm going to change it to 1500, and both of these dialog boxes should change if this link is linked here. And so if you notice, the file size has changed up here and the dimensions have changed. It goes from 42 megabytes down to 6.44 megabytes. So what we're doing is we're actually changing the size of the image, or we're resampling it, and we're telling Photoshop we want to get rid of some of those pixels. And so to accept this change, we're going to hit OK on the keyboard. And if you notice, the image jumps size and it goes a little bit smaller, and the reason that is because we are removing some of those pixels. We're still looking at that same 33% is what I was at, but it removes some of those pixels. So then what you're going to do is you're going to save this image as a JPEG file. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to name it, you can name it something like resample, so you know it's your resampled. I've got an example of resample 1500 because I know it's 1500 pixels. You can name it whatever you want, just as long as it's easy to identify which one it is. And then in format, we want to choose JPEG, and you'll see it JPG or JPEG. Usually file extensions are three places, and so JPEG is 4. So we want to do the JPEG or JPEG, and it'll automatically add that file extension. So this is the settings that you want. This is totally fine here, and we'll hit save. And then all of these settings, just leave the default one at maximum. Baseline standard is fine. And now we've got a resampled image. And we could put this image in a print document, and it would actually be 5 inches by 5 inches at 300 pixels per inch. You could actually print it and it'd be nice and clear at that size. Just a side note that pixels per inch is interchangeable with dots per inch. So you may hear somebody say, how many DPI is that, or how many PPI? The number will be the same. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to resize the image. So to resize it means that we're going to change the number of pixels per inch. And so, or dots per inch. And so I'm going to go back to my image and image size. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually change this resolution here. So right now it's 300 pixels per inch, and we're going to change that to 72 pixels per inch. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck that resample. And so what that's doing is it's telling Photoshop you can't get rid of any pixels. We're not going to resample it. And then we're going to change this resolution here to 72. And now if you notice, when we change it to 72, our actual file dimensions change. It changes to a width of 20.833 inches. And so what that's doing is, instead of having 300 pixels per inch, it's putting 72, and it grows our width of our file approximately 4 times, a little bit more, 4 times the size. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to click on resample, and we're going to change this to pixels instead of inches. And we're going to change our width to 1000 pixels. And then we're going to hit, actually let's note this first. If you notice, our image size changed again because we've actually removed it because we're resampling. And we're going to hit OK. And now what we've got is we've got an image that is screen resolution, or 72 pixels per inch, or dots per inch. And if we want to look at it at full size, we're still at 33%. You can double click on this magnifying icon, or you can go to view, fit on screen, or 100% to zoom in a little bit. But if you were to place this image on a web page, this is what size that image would be. So there's that difference between resizing and resampling. But the most important thing that you should remember, and even if you burn this into your brain, however you can remember it, remember print resolution. So something that is high enough resolution to print has to be 300 pixels per inch, or dots per inch. And screen resolution has to be 72 dots per inch, or pixels per inch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save this image as, and we're going to save it as resize, because this is our resized, and we made it 1000 pixels. And then we're going to make it a JPEG, and we're going to hit save, and all those settings are okay. So now the last thing that we're going to deal with is the color mode. So there are a bunch of different options you can use. To find color mode, if you go to image, and the first one down is mode, and you can see there's several different options here. We're going to be dealing with RGB, CMYK, and grayscale. If you notice, this image is RGB right now. Again, you can see right here, it's got the name of my file, it's got the percentage at which I'm viewing, and it's got my color mode, RGB. And then I want you to make a note of what size this size is here. And I'm actually going to pull this down because part of the assignment is for you to tell me what size this is going to be. And so what we want to do here is we want to switch it from RGB to CMYK. Now RGB has 3 channels, and these 3 channels correlate with the red, green, and blue. And red or RGB is used for screen images. So anything that's on your cell phone or your computer or a digital TV, any digital color is built of these three different colors. And we're going to talk a little bit more about color later in the semester. And so what we're going to do is we're going to convert it to CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and that's 4 channels, and that's used for print projects. So what I want you to do is go to Image, Mode, and go to CMYK, and then go ahead and hit OK to convert. And then what I want you to do is I want you to note what file size, what it changes to. And just write that down, and then you're going to enter that into Canvas in a little bit. Then the last thing I want you to do is go to Image, Mode, and convert it to grayscale. And we want to discard that color information, and then make a note about what that new file size is. The one thing that you'll notice is that the file size gets larger when you go from RGB to CMYK because we're adding a channel, and then it goes and it gets smaller when you go from CMYK to grayscale because you're removing channels. Now the things that you need to submit to Canvas are your 2 JPEGs you saved, your resampled and your resized, and then I want you to enter what your file size is for the CMYK file size and grayscale file size as a text entry into Canvas. Hopefully this goes through a little bit and kind of explore and experiment what happens when you change or you play with these settings.